Some people think the terrifying part is entering a haunted place, an abandoned house, a cursed object, a dark road in the middle of nowhere. But what if that's only the beginning? What if the real horror starts when you come back home? Because sometimes something follows you. Tonight, we're diving into chilling real stories of people who claim they brought something back with them. Shadow figures appearing in bedrooms, voices whispering in empty houses, nightmares that suddenly became real, and the terrifying question that haunted every victim: did they invite it in? Turn off the lights, lock your doors, and step beyond the darkness. This is Beyond the Darkness podcast, El Más Allá de la Oscuridad. It always feels like when you visit these places, sometimes the main mystery, it's the place. But it's always been in my head, when you leave those places, if something can actually come with you.
Hey, I'm sure sometimes these things are real.
I heard of the word hitchhiking ghost.
Yeah.
Ghosts that you can just pick up at a gas station in the middle of nowhere in the road when you're driving. You stop to check the air on your tires, or you just stop to do whatever in the side of the road, and you never know. Someone could have died there. Next thing you know, you're driving back home with the lady in white next to you.
Or somebody sitting in your back seat.
So tonight, we're going to be talking about 4 stories where these people didn't get the haunting they expected at the place, but they actually brought the haunting to their own place. So, when we're talking about not actually going to a haunted place, but bringing the haunting to your house, I think this story I'm about to tell is right in that alley. It's actually a real story, and it's actually about a TV personality from Mexico. His name is Facundo. I don't know if you ever heard about the guy. To the people that don't know, Facundo is actually a comedian that he's been, on TV for years over there in Mexico. So one day they invite Facundo to a radio show in Mexico. It's a very famous radio show. It's actually about, ghost stories and things of the paranormal. It's called La Mano Peluda. I think it's one of the most famous radio shows out there in Mexico. I mean, it's been running for over 40 years, I want to say. And they invited him because Facundo, in a previous show, I don't know where, he was talking about how he has this disbelief for, the paranormal. He doesn't believe in ghosts. He doesn't believe, in UFOs and all the paranormal stuff. So the host of the show, Juan Ramon Sainz, actually did like an invite to Facundo to the show. Facundo, he took the invite. He went over to the show. They did a segment where they were taking calls from people, because that's how the show works. People call in, they say their stories. And in the show, it's the host. But apart from the host, there's a lady that helps, and there's a guy that used to be a priest, but he's actually now like a radio personality. So they always, try to help out the people with their calls or whatever problems they're having, and they just listen to the stories, and the audience gets to experience, this fucking haunting stories that they bring to the radio, that they say on the radio.
Yeah.
So the day that Facundo went, he heard a couple of stories, and you can kind of tell, he was laughing in the background, or just like in disbelief. He was just, making sounds.
So he was a bit skeptical.
Very skeptical. So the radio host actually asked him, like, what is it that, makes you think that none of this is real, or why are you so skeptical about all this? He says, in all my life, I've been in my house with all the lights off. I've never heard anything. I've, gone to different places, different hotels around the world. I've never experienced anything. But the radio host says, you know what? What if we invite you to one of our, visits? Because they do like this monthly visits to like haunted places. Or at the time they were doing that. In a couple of weeks, we're going to go to a local cemetery here in Mexico that they've been telling us that is, it's haunted. There's a lot of activity going on in the cemetery. Would you mind, going with us? And of course, Facundo's like, yeah, I'll go, and I'm going to take my own cameras, because I'll record a segment from my show, and I want to prove to the people that there's nothing to be scared of. So 2 weeks go by, they meet up at the cemetery, and I think it was something very cliche where they meet at the cemetery like at 12 a.m.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So Facundo arrives, with 2 camera guys, I think, or 1 camera guy, and Juan Ramon is there with 1 camera guy, the lady from the show, and the man that used to be a priest. So they start doing their investigation. They start walking around. And of course, this host from the show, they kind of know, what to be saying, how to act. But one of the things they did tell Facundo before they started doing their investigation is, whatever you do, if you're skeptical or not, you do have to be respectful, especially in the cemetery. You have to be respectful in a way where, okay, let's say you don't see anything or you're not finding where you came to look for, you still have to be respectful for the dead. You know, you can't be doing jokes or, or trying to instigate. So they start doing their investigation. And after maybe, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, they haven't seen anything. There's no activity going on. Facundo looks at his camera guy and he's like, you know what? Nothing's happening. And I'm kind of getting bored. So I'm going to make something happen. If it's true, if there's ghosts out there, I want to see something. So this guy starts provoking spirits. So he starts screaming words out there. Mind you, the radio host told them, don't provoke the ghost or don't provoke the dead. You have to be respectful. This guy just takes it upon himself. He just takes it upon himself. And he literally starts screaming shit like, if there's anyone out there, come out because I don't believe in anything. And he starts, saying different stuff, screaming it. And the guy gives him a warning, like, hey, chill down. And he's like, no. I don't see anyone. I don't think nothing's happening. If someone's out there, come out because I don't believe in this shit. I think all this shit is fake. And as he's screaming, his cameraman is recording him. And behind him, maybe, a couple yards back, there's a tombstone. And you just hear the cameraman saying his voice sounds like it's breaking. Someone is standing by the tombstone. So when Facundo turns and the other guys that are there turn around, you literally just see a little girl walk to the side. And it's on video. You see a little girl just walk to the side and you just hear Facundo scream, bro. Like he screams for his life. He's like, holy shit, all this shit. And he starts running. The camera guy starts running. The guys from the radio kind of tell him like, hey, hold on. And no, they don't want to hold on. They start running towards their cars.
I remember that episode, man. I remember when I was young watching that. It freaked me out too.
Man, I think everyone that saw that episode got fucking freaked out because you could actually see the little girl just walk to the side. I don't think it was like a planned thing. I don't think it was an act. If you see it, it feels very, very real. And the way Facundo gets scared, bro, he's just running and he's screaming all this shit.
It's authentic fear.
Oh, very authentic. Well, this is where the story, gets more interesting. They get to their vehicles. He admits now, okay, I believe in this stuff. I just saw a ghost. And
Yeah.
he's saying it on camera. They finish, the night. He takes off to his house. Everybody goes home. When he gets home, he walks into his house. He says he's always walked into his house with the lights off. He's never had a feeling in there. He's never had, like an eerie feeling like something's gonna happen. That night, he just saw a ghost, so he's feeling different now. So the first thing he does is he starts turning on all the lights in the house.
Yeah.
He says he goes into the kitchen and he's trying to, get a drink or something. And all of a sudden he hears a noise by the living room. Like someone just walked by. So he turns around and he starts fucking like calling someone, like, is someone there? Is someone there? And then he hears the noise again, but now it's like in another room where someone's walking in his house. So he doesn't even like stay, 5 minutes in there. He just runs out of the house, gets in his car, and immediately calls to his cell phone the radio host, Juan Ramon, and tells him, hey, is there a way you guys can come to my house right now? There's something in my house. And the radio host is like, well, I'm at my house. The guys from the show, they're probably all in their house. And he's like, hey, man, I will pay you guys if you come over. There's something in my house. So the radio host tells him, you know what? We can be there. Like, give me your address, but we'll probably be there, maybe in an hour. He's like, that's okay. I'm going to be in my car. I'm going to drive away from the house. Just let me know when you're coming and, we can meet up outside. Sure enough, an hour goes by. They all arrive to his house. They're outside. Facundo, the radio host, the girl from the show, and the guy, I forget his name, the one that was a priest. And he's telling them, I came into my house, I was in the kitchen, and I heard footsteps. Then I asked if there was someone, because I felt something in there. So the radio host tells him, well, let's go inside the house. As soon as they're walking towards the house, towards the entrance, the guy that was a priest, tells them right away, like, oh, there's something in this house. Because that guy, I forget his name, man. I'm going to see if I can get the name. But that guy, he used to be a priest, and I think he was like a medium or something. So he would like get the feelings of when something was happening.
Yeah.
So he's the one that tells him, you know what, there's something in this house. And I think it's something that followed you from the graveyard, from the cemetery.
Little girl.
So they get inside the house. And as soon as they walk into the house, boom, footsteps again running up the stairs. And there's no one on the stairs. Like, there's no one on the stairs. And everyone hears like someone running up the stairs. And he starts panicking and telling them, I told you there's something is in my house right now. So they literally did like a cleansing of his home where, they started, saying some prayers. The guy had some, I forget, it's like I don't know what it's like a plant that they burn, like sage, or what's it called?
Sage.
Sage. And he starts burning it around the house. And as he's doing this stuff, there's a ton of noises coming out. Like noises like the doors are like fucking hitting. There's noises downstairs in the kitchen. So like it's getting fucking crazy inside his house. Till finally, the guy stops what he's doing. And he's like, now we have to go upstairs. So they go upstairs, they do the same thing, they come downstairs. And Facundo is the first one to say, I feel like someone just left my house. Like literally, I feel like there's nothing in the house but us. And the guy tells him, like, there shouldn't be anything in your house. And he's like, well, for tonight, I'm still gonna go sleep in a hotel. Like, I can't stay in my house. Story goes that he took, I think, a week to come back to his house. After that week, he comes back to the house.
Yeah.
Checked in with the radio host, and he's like, you know what? Everything's back to normal. I'm never fucking around with, the supernatural or anything like that. I'm sorry for what I provoked. Like, if you ever invite me to your show, I'm probably gonna say no.
Wow, I had never heard of that second part. Because when I was young, I only saw the first piece, like, what they recorded. But I've never heard about him,
So the second part, how I found out about the second part was because he came on a podcast, I think. A podcast or a radio show, I don't know where it was. And they talk about the cemetery, about the little girl. And then he tells the story. Funny thing was, Jose Ramon has an interview also where they talk about the case from Facundo. And he also tells the story. And the stories go hand by hand, man. Like, they match.
Now, I do believe something from that graveyard might have followed Facundo home, man. I really do. Because things like that do happen. Like, I don't know if you remember that. I think it was a week or two ago, we were talking about some children that got into an asylum. You remember that story?
Oh, that's true. You were actually telling me about the kid. I think they were trying to be, ghost hunters?
Yes, aspiring ghost hunters, as they would say.
Okay.
And so these children are from this small town. Andy was the one that was trying to become the ghost adventurer, trying to go out there, look for things, record things, ghosts, things like that. Now, around their neighborhood, there was an asylum. It was old, decrepit, taken over by nature completely. So this place was quite dusty. These kids one day passed by it and they said, you know what? Why don't we start there as our first story? Everybody agreed. They had heard stories about it multiple times, People talking about seeing shadows in the windows, even hearing sounds at night. So they decided they're going to go ahead and go. One night, they get their equipment together and go out there. By the time, they only had a bunch of cameras and little things like that. Small recorders, trying to pick up some sounds, It wasn't so high-tech as it is nowadays.
Yeah.
So these kids go in there at night, start walking around. It was about 2 stories. So as they're in the first story, they're looking around. They don't really see much. They hear some noises here and there. But of course, they're kids, so they start teasing each other about being scared. Going upstairs, though, they start hearing deeper things. Footsteps. People knocking in rooms. And they would even see shadows. So they started taking photos and videos of everything, trying to see if they can be able to see something through the videos later on. As they're walking out, they start feeling something behind them. So they leave the area, being scared, of course, step out of the asylum, start walking back home. Andy starts feeling like somebody's still following them. So as he gets home, he starts watching the videos, trying to see if they see anything weird, anything funny. On his side, he only sees shadows. Shadows on entrances here and there, shadows around corners, till suddenly he hears a noise right behind him, like somebody's standing there. So Andy jumps quick and looks, but there's nobody there. He thinks nothing of it at first. Just, maybe some fear that stayed with him while he was in the asylum or something.
Yeah.
So he shakes it off. He starts noticing that in the mirror while he's trying to brush his teeth, he feels somebody standing behind him. Though on the edge of his eyes, like, you ever been looking into a mirror and you use your peripherals to see around the mirror?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So this kid decided to do that, and he noticed that there was a shadow standing behind him the whole time. He wouldn't look directly at it. Every time he would do that, it's when it would disappear. It's when you don't see anything anymore. So he would just stay there still, brushing his teeth, looking to his periphery. After that, he decided to go to his bed. While laying down, he started feeling like somebody was standing at the edge of his bed, bro. So Andy gets up and turns on one of his lights, looks around again, looks under his bed, nothing. Turns off the light, goes back to lay down. Starts to rest. As the night goes on, maybe about an hour or two of him being asleep, he hears a noise in his room. So he gets up again, but this time he yells. His mother comes in the room, asks him if everything's okay, and he says it's fine. He just feels that something was in the room. So his mom looks around, looks in the closet, looks under the bed as well. She says, I don't see anything around here. He says, it's okay. I'm just going to try to rest. I think I'm still scared about what we did today. Anything you want to talk about? He says, no, it's fine, it's fine. She steps out. Andy tries to go back to sleep, but he can't. The whole night he feels something's watching him. He's just tossing and turning. So the next day he starts talking to his friends. The friends didn't feel anything different. Nothing happened around them, no noises or anything like that. They start speaking about the videos. In the videos, they say that every time they record Andy, they see somebody standing behind Andy. So Andy starts telling them that he feels like somebody's been behind him the whole time in his house. These boys then decide to investigate in his house, so they have a small sleepover. Once they were there, Andy decided to turn off all the lights to get the investigation going. They turn everything off and they start walking around the house. Now his mother and father already knew they were going to be out there doing their thing. So they let them, walk around, not let the noises disturb them. Andy and the kids started going around the house, and every few moments they would turn around and take photos of Andy. In one of these photos that they had taken, they had seen something standing behind Andy. So they decided to record Andy. And as they're recording Andy, they start seeing imprints on his shirt right above his shoulder. So they tell Andy they think something might have followed him. Andy gets terrified. It was their first investigation, so they weren't expecting anything like this to happen to them, their children. They all get into Andy's room. They're all talking about what's going on, what they all saw. Andy's pretty scared. Something's in his house. So Andy decides to tell his mom. Going towards her room, he feels that thing's still following him. But right before he touches the door, he feels something grab him from the shirt and yank back. So he starts to yell. His parents then come out of the room, see what's going on, and Andy tells them that he thinks something followed them. And that's when he finally tells them that he had gone into the asylum. His father was very upset, told him not to go there, ever, because bad things happen in that asylum. So that night, Andy's parents sent the children back home. They sat there and they spoke with Andy and told Andy he has to get rid of all the video, all the footage, all the photographs that they had taken of these shadows, and never to go back there again. As well, Andy told his friends to get rid of all the videos and everything. It took about, I believe it was 3 to 4 weeks before things started going back to normal in his home.
I mean, it's because that's how it happens sometimes. You get a haunting, and a lot of times people think, oh, you need a priest, or you need all these prayers or all these things, to get rid of spirits. I've heard from people where they say you just need to ignore it. The only problem is it just depends what you're ignoring. Because if it's, a friendly spirit or just something, that got attached to you because it wants some attention,
Yeah.
it might go away. But if it's like something demonic or something like that, you're gonna need higher power, man.
Or even if you have things or trinkets that belong to them and they're following the trinket, you're never going to get rid of it as long as you
Exactly.
have that.
I don't know if you ever heard the case of Annabelle, right? We
Yeah.
all know the case of Annabelle,
Yes.
the doll, the Raggedy Ann doll. If you think about it, it's kind of the same thing. Something that someone got in an entity or something like something maleficent was attached to that doll and followed the people home. I mean, I want to say a lot of people know the story behind Annabelle. Annabelle was what, a doll.
Yes, sir.
Story goes, there was this girl in, I don't know if it was in California. I think it was in California. She was a nursing student, or I think she was a nurse already. Yeah, she was a nurse, and she was living in an apartment with her roommate, which was another girl that was a nurse as well. I want to say that the boyfriend got her the doll, the Annabelle doll, and at the time that they got her the doll, the name wasn't Annabelle. It was just a Raggedy Ann doll. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the girl named it Annabelle. But how it started was she got gifted this doll. She brought it home. In the beginning, they start hearing little things here and there.
Yeah.
And then they start getting these notes under their door that said, "Do you want to play with me?" So one of the girls asked the other girl, like her roommate, like, "Hey, did you leave this note under the door?" And she's like, "No." And they come to the conclusion, it's the doll, which was step number one for the demon or whatever was attached. It wanted to get their attention.
Yeah.
Once it knew it had their attention, that's when like the power started to get stronger. Because now these girls think, oh, it's the doll, it wants to play with us. Like, oh my God, like they saw it actually as something like, oh, it's pretty cool. You have a talking doll, or you have a doll that's actually, they didn't see it as possessed by something evil, but they saw it more like, oh my God, like it's something rare. Like this doll wants to play with us.
Yeah, they're entertaining the spirit.
They were entertaining the spirit. What happens? The spirit starts becoming more fucking evil to the point where it was very jealous. Like it wanted them to always pay attention to her and things like that, where it actually got to the point that it was, starting to do harm to them in the house. These girls get the doll. One of them, I think, decided to throw the doll in a trash can outside the apartments. And if I'm not mistaken, that same night, they start hearing noises in their apartment. They come out of their rooms and the doll's in a fucking chair.
Oh, damn, man.
Yeah. I think that same night, they get the doll, they throw it inside the closet and lock it.
Yeah.
The next day, that's when the girl sees the newspaper, and there's an advertisement that the Warrens are in town in a local college, I think, and they were giving like a presentation about demonology, spirits, and things like this.
Okay.
So that's when the girl decided to go to the local college, speaks to the Warrens, and tells them her story about the doll, Annabelle. Yeah. They actually decide to make a visit to their apartment, and that's where I think as soon as the Warrens are coming in, the what was her name? The lady, the Warren. Oh, I forget her name. Lorraine Warren notices, because she was the medium, I think. When they walk into the apartment, she noticed a demon standing at the edge of a table or something like that. And that's when they knew, that this doll had a demon attached to it. And they describe it in the movie, but not just the movie. There's a documentary where Ed and Lorraine are describing the Annabelle doll. And they tell you, there's nothing inside of the doll. The doll itself, it's not like Chucky, that has its own fucking power and walking around.
Its own soul.
No, there's a demon attached to the doll. And the demon is making the doll move around so you can pay attention to something physical in this world. And that's how it's getting your attention.
Yeah.
So that's what was happening with the doll.
That's crazy.
So that's why they took the doll and they put it in their museum, and they had to put it under this special glass, and I think like there's a prayer around it and things like that. But that's something that goes with something came with that doll. Something came to haunt you into your house. A lot of the times, you don't have to go to a place and get haunted in that place and that's it. A lot of the times, it can be a doll, it can be a chair, it can be different items that can have something attached to them, and you don't know when you're bringing it home. So, on my next story that I have, it's about a wine cabinet. A man goes to this auction where they're selling a bunch of old stuff.
Yeah.
And his interest was this wine case. It was a case where you put, the wine bottles inside. But this wine case was passed on generation to generation in a Jewish family.
Okay.
It wasn't part of the auction, but the item was there. How was the item there? They don't know. When this guy sees that item, he talks to the people there, well, to the man, because it was a man hosting the auction, and tells him, hey, I'm interested in the wine cabinet. The guy tells him, that cabinet's not for sale. Like, I don't know how it got here,
Yeah.
but the things that we're selling are the things that are on the floor on this side. He's like, well, that cabinet's right there. Like, I'll buy it. I like it. I'm actually looking for a wine case for my house. The man literally warns him and tells him, I don't know how that wine cabinet got there, but I had it in my house and a bunch of stuff was happening in my house. I actually put it back into storage, and people in the storage unit around, like the people that work in the storages,
Yeah.
they say that around my storage, they can hear noises coming out of my storage. They actually opened up my storage thinking someone was living in there, and there was nothing in there. So I don't even have this wine cabinet, and I don't even want anything to do with the wine cabinet. I don't know how it got here with these items. I had it in the storage. So this guy thinks, you know what? He's just trying to sell me the story because he doesn't want to get rid of it. He probably put it there by accident or someone else, and now he wants it.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't want to sell it to me. So the guy kind of persuades the guy into, you know what? It's there. I want to buy it. And he tells him, fine, if you want to take him, you could take it. I'm not going to sell it to you. You could just take it. But I'm warning you, like, there's something with that cabinet. So the man decides to, you know what? Whatever, here's $100. And the man still tells him, you know what? I don't want your money. He's like, no. He leaves the money, he gets the cabinet, and he goes home. In his mind, he's thinking, I got the cabinet I was looking for. I wanted a wine cabinet. What better than, an 80-year-old wine cabinet passed on from family generations to family generations.
Yeah.
He sets up the wine cabinet in his house. When he comes to his house, it's his wife and 2 children, I believe, and the mother of the wife. She was living with them at the time. And he tells him, I bought this wine cabinet at an auction. He tells her the story, and the first thing the mother-in-law tells him is like, well, I think you should have listened to that man. Like, there was a reason why he didn't want to sell you that cabinet. And he's like, nah, the reason is, he didn't want to get rid of it. So they put the cabinet on. He installs the cabinet in the living room, and he starts putting wine bottles in there. So to him, everything was going perfect.
Yeah.
And like every story we say, it's always that first night, right? That first night that they're sleeping in their house with that new wine cabinet installed, everything starts going wrong. It starts with nightmares. The man has a nightmare where in his nightmare, he's awake in his bed and there's a shadow standing at the edge of his bed. And it's a long shadow. You can't see what's standing in the edge of the bed. You can't see if it's a man or a woman. It's just a shadow. But it's a scary nightmare that he's having where he can move kind of like a sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
And whatever is standing in front of him is pointing to the kitchen from his room. So in his nightmare, he gets out of the bed, but not because he gets off and walks. It's like if he got levitated and starts floating to the kitchen. So once he, gets to the kitchen,
Yeah.
the shadow points to the side of the kitchen, which is the living room, and he's actually pointing straight at the cabinet. He's looking at the cabinet, the door's open, and there's just blood like coming out of the cabinet, dripping to the floor. He wakes up sweating, panic, 5 a.m. in the morning, and he's shooken up by this nightmare. Turns around, the wife is not next to him. So he kind of gets rattled with that. He hears a noise in the kitchen. He gets up, he gets out of bed, he goes straight to the kitchen, and his wife is talking to her mother, and they're drinking water, like in the kitchen. And he's like, what happened? Like, what are you guys doing here in the kitchen right now? And the wife tells him, it's because I had a nightmare. I woke up my mom and I told her I had a nightmare where something was telling me to get rid of the wine cabinet. Like, I had this nightmare where something was telling me, get rid of the cabinet. But there was something evil behind it, laughing. And I couldn't move. I was stuck in the bed where I finally opened my eyes And I got out of bed and I came to the kitchen just to see the cabinet. Something about the cabinet. My mom heard my noises, so she got out of the bed and I started telling her what was going on. And that's 2 minutes before you got here.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to tell them about his nightmare because he thinks if I tell him my nightmare, it's going to provoke something. Maybe, everybody got rattled with the story the man told us.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody's, having a nightmare or something like that. So I'm just let's go back to sleep. The next morning, a regular day, they're talking during breakfast. And one of the kids mentions to them, hey, what were you guys talking about last night? Oh, no, your mom had a nightmare. We're talking in the kitchen. Yes, because I heard you and I woke up and when I saw the clock, it was 2 a.m. Like, what happened? And they're like, no. And he tells them it was 2 a.m. Like, and I just heard everyone. I just heard talking in the living room, so I thought it was you guys, but I know what happened. And the dad tells him, no, it wasn't 2 a.m. It was actually 5 a.m. And he's like, no, I woke up at 2 a.m. Like it said 2 a.m. on my clock, and I heard someone talking in the living room. And they tell him, no, it was 5 a.m. when we're in the kitchen, and the kid keeps saying, no. Something woke me up like a noise. I woke up, I saw my clock, it said 2 a.m. and I heard someone talking in the living room. I thought it was you, Dad, because it was like a man talking. The dad just tells him like, well, okay, whatever. Or maybe he didn't see the clock correctly, but it was 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Not thinking maybe something else woke his kid up at 2 a.m. A day, 2 days go by. Nothing happened, no nightmares, no noises. On the fourth night, his son wakes up around 2 a.m. again. But this time when he wakes up, he goes running into their room. And he's scared. And he's telling his mom and his dad as they wake up, something was in my room, like something went in my room, like something went in my room. What was it? I don't know, but something was in my room. It was moving my papers around. It was moving stuff in my room around. I couldn't see what it was, but something was in my room. So they go to the kid's room. There's nothing in the room, but you can kind of see his arrangement of stuff in his room was kind of moving, like his books and stuff, they were moved around in his desk. And they ask him, are you sure it wasn't you? And he's like, no, like I woke up because I heard a loud noise and the papers were moving in my desk, like everything was moving around. So the kid tells him, Mom, is it okay if I sleep with you guys in your room tonight? They're like, yeah, you can sleep in our room. As they're trying to go to sleep, they hear their daughter scream now. And the daughter's screaming like if something was attacking her. When they go into her room, she's screaming in her bed. They turn on the lights, and she has 2 scratches on the side of her face. And she's crying, saying that something was like scratching her and pulling her on her bed. And as this is happening, the grandma just walks out normally of her room, starts walking towards the living room, and the wife starts calling her mom like, Mom, Mom, Mom. Like she's trying to call her because, the daughter just got scratched by something.
Yeah.
Mom, Mom. And the mom's not listening. She just walks by them like to the hallway, goes towards the living room, and she stands right in front of the cabinet. And she's just looking at the cabinet with like a serious face. So the wife, she stands next to her mom and she's just looking at her, and she calls the husband, and the husband tells her, I think she's sleepwalking. But hey, our daughter just got scratched, like something's happening.
Yeah, something's in the house.
Something's in the house. Suddenly, the mom just starts screaming. The old lady, she just starts screaming, looking at the cabinet. Like screaming, it was like a scream like if something was scaring her.
She was terrified of the cabinet.
Like she was terrified of that cabinet, but she's screaming. So they start like moving her around, like how do you say it?
They start shaking her?
Yeah, they start shaking her. Suddenly the old lady wakes up and she doesn't even know what's happening. She looks at them and she's like, what happened? And she's like, you started screaming. I don't know if you were sleepwalking. She's like, I don't know what's going on. Like the lady doesn't know what's going on. At the same time, you have the little girl still panicked over there in the room, terrified because something scratched her. The boy is fucking scared. So they all decide like something's in the house right now. So they all go into one room where they decide to spend the whole night. The next day, the man gets the cabinet out of the wall, puts it in the truck, and tries to go back to the man that sold them the cabinet. Well, the man that gave him the cabinet, right?
Yeah.
He can't find the man anymore. Like, he can't find him. The place where they had that auction, like, it was, I don't know, it was like a hotel, what do you call it? Like a...
What was it, a private auction?
It was like a private auction, but it was, let's say, like a room that they rent out at the hotels. Like, you know how they rent out to make conferences and things like that? I think that's where they had the whole sale thing, the auction. So he can't find the man till someone gets him the number there at the hotel of the man that hosted the auction, you know, a week prior or something like that. He contacts the guy and tells him, hey, man, all this shit's happening in my house. Like, I want to give you that cabinet back. And the man's like, oh, no. Like, I told you, like, I warned you, like, I don't want anything to do with that cabinet. I think the best thing you can do is just, you know, throw it somewhere, get rid of it. So that's what they do. The man decides to go to like a local landfill there in the city, and he just goes and disposes the cabinet, but he literally like breaks the cabinet, comes back home, like you said in your story. Took him a couple of weeks, but everything went back to normal again.
Man, I would have just burned that cabinet automatically. Starting hearing that stuff in my house, started seeing my kids, you know, panicking and being scared. My first dream and what they were talking about in the kitchen, that would have been the first red flag right there. Get rid of that cabinet. I would have burned it on the spot. Well, not on the spot, outside.
I think, like I told you, the man thought that the first night when they were having those nightmares, it was probably something, it had something to do with, you know, the whole talk about the cabinet being haunted and what the man told him. And I think that's what he thought. I think he thought everything got triggered because of that conversation.
So like it might have been their imagination?
Yeah. But not knowing, you know, how bad it was going to get the next couple of days.
Oh man, because that got bad quick.
But that's how we're saying right now. Like, that's how you can bring something into your house. We spoke about when you buy an old mirror. You can't buy an old mirror, man. You can't buy an old mirror because they say the same thing. That's what they were telling us. Remember when we spoke to Lobo Blanco?
Yeah.
That's like a window to, you know...
To the spirit realm.
To the spirit realm. And you don't know how that mirror was used in another place, in another house. He would actually say that spirits actually hide in the mirrors, right?
Yeah. Yeah, spirits hide in mirrors. They can also attach to many other things, like I said, trinkets and things like that. So you never know what you pick up in the street, what it might bring to your house. So this story I'm going to tell you, it's about this couple.
Okay.
Female named Cassidy, the male's name is Billy. I saw this story on, what was it, Travel Channel, I told you? And this is quite a strange story because it starts out with them already having this thing following them around.
Okay.
So the show speaks to Cassidy where she's telling them that the ghost tends to try to speak to her all the time, calling out her name and screaming out for her, like if it's a personal thing.
Damn.
And her husband, Billy, says that he's heard it multiple times. And also seen where it tries to yank her or it tries to pull him away from the room to keep him away from her. So Candace and Billy have tried multiple things to be able to get rid of this. Mediums, priests coming into the home, trying to cleanse the house, but it just won't leave. So they keep moving from place to place. And it keeps following them as well from place to place. Candace got to the point to where she would start feeling it while she was sleeping, touching her and moving her around. Of course, you get these women with the fear of, you know, it's going to do something to me while I'm sleeping. Everybody has that type of fear. And they decide to, again, move home. But this time, they decide to start from scratch. They believe it might be following with something, or it might just be following them. So they move to a new home, start everything at a scratch, brand new. Unfortunately, she kept hearing noises. She kept seeing things. She kept hearing her name. So Billy decided to speak with her, see where it might have started. She tells Billy that when she was younger, she would already hear these things, talking to her, following her around, and she thought it might have just been something that follows the family. For a very long time, she believed maybe the family had something following them. Now they visited a relative of theirs a long time ago, which is where she believes they might have had that spirit attached. This relative lived in a very old home, but unfortunately the grandma was known as a Wiccan that would follow witchcraft. See, at first she thought nothing of it. She was a child, learning about a few things that grandmother would do, and when she got back home she started seeing some things, but she never believed that it might have been attached to what she had just been through. So, as the years went by, she would notice that it's mainly following her. It's keeping it very personal to her. As I said, it calls out her name, tells her that she belongs to him all of the time. So they decide, you know what? Let's try to see what we can videotape, catch. So they record themselves as they sleep. And as they sleep, what they see is a shadow walking into the room, getting close to where she's laying down in the bed, like if it's just staring at her. And then it tends to walk away.
So when they're sleeping, they're recording how when they're sleeping in the room, right?
Yeah.
And they see a shadow like literally come into the room.
Yeah. So Billy says that he sees a shadow walking into the room, looking straight at her as if he's staring at her, and then starts to walk out. So they decide to do it multiple nights to see what exactly goes on, what it does, what they can see. A few nights, of course, you see nothing going on in the videos, but there are some nights where you catch some very dark things happening. And one of these nights, they see where they keep removing the covers off of Candace, and she keeps grabbing them to cover herself, but they keep removing them. So Billy decides, you know what, we do have to call a priest in, see what's going on, see if there's any way we can exorcise this thing, get it away from you. And they do. They found himself a local priest. He comes into the home and tells them that he feels nothing in the home. So Billy questions the priest. Whether there's nothing in the home, what's been following us this whole time? The priest says, the whole time it's been behind Candace. It's not following the home, it's not you, it's Candace. So he sits there in the room, has a conversation with her and asks her, since when has this been going on? The details of how it all started. Candace, of course, informs the priest of the story that she had, letting him know that she's had nightmares of that old house multiple times, but the nightmares just stopped after she started growing. The priest said maybe what he believes is that something from that house might have followed her as well, just like she believed. So he started doing small prayers right there with her, trying to get whatever's around her away from her. As the priest starts praying, Candace starts feeling hands on her shoulders, tightening and tightening.
Fuck.
The priest is praying, doing his psalms. Unfortunately, he didn't go fully prepared to do a complete cleansing, so he had no sage or things like that. But he believed that with the power of prayer, he would be able to help her. So as he starts going, she's feeling these pains on her shoulder where it's tightening up. At one point, the priest stops because he hears a yell right behind Candace saying, "No, she's mine." That's when he decides he has to pray harder. So he stands and starts praying even more and more and more. Turns around and tells Billy to open up the doors. They have to be open so he can run out. And he prayed and prayed and prayed. Unfortunately, that didn't work, but it made the spirit angrier. The priest said he was going to come back in a few days. Had to get a few things ready, because it seems like it might be something a bit stronger than what he believed it was in the first place.
Yeah.
So as they wait for the priest and the nights go by, it gets worse. This time as they record, they see where it pulls Candace from the bed, starts yanking the covers off of them, and it's even moved to start yanking on Billy as he sleeps. When the priest comes in, they show him the new information, show him the videos, tell him what's going on, it's been getting worse. The priest then tells them that what they're being followed by is a demon, and it was attached to Candace. So he starts doing a certain prayer. Now more prepared, the priest starts having an effect on what this demon is. It starts chucking things around the house, moving things, opening and closing cabinets, doors as well, until eventually things just go to a pause. A nice deep silence around the house. Finally, it's over.
Fucking crazy, man. It's crazy how, in the stories we talk about today, something gets attached to someone. And it could be, coming from an item, or just visiting a place like the kids that went to the asylum, or even like that Mexican actor, that he went to that cemetery.
Yeah.
And he was mocking the spirits. But it's because sometimes, we might think that the only things getting haunted are places. Sometimes those things are just waiting, to follow you home. Come home to you. Feed off your energy. How many times have we heard, of hauntings where it's not just people that, oh, I move into this house and I started getting hauntings or haunted, right? Sometimes it's just they can move 5 houses to 5 different houses, and the haunting continues because it's something that got attached to you.
Yeah.
And it's weird how it happens though, because I don't know if you remember when I was talking about the story of I think it was in Imaginary Friends. We're talking about the case of Emily.
Yeah, the imaginary friends.
It was Imaginary Friends, right? There's a part where I think in the story goes something like they went to a church to try to get help, and the priest actually tells them whatever was haunting you was in the car with you guys. Like it can attach to your energy, I believe, and it can follow you anywhere you go.
Oh yeah, many things can happen when it comes to spirits, and you never know. Sometimes people might even attach them to you. Like right there, I believe maybe the grandmother might have attached something to the daughter.
I mean, it could have been voluntary, not voluntary. It could have been that the grandma did it, or it could have been that whatever the grandma was working on, saw this pure soul and just attached itself to her. I remember, I think it was like 2 years ago when we were talking, and I bring it up a lot because, he's a good friend of ours. He's a Lobo Blanco, which from Mexico.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, because I had an incident happen in my house. I think I told you guys. The first time I talked to Lobo Blanco, I remember I was in my mom's house, and I used to record the podcast in one of her extra rooms. And as we're doing the episode, that episode was basically about, what he does in Mexico, how he does, this seance, and he does, work for people where, people that are trying to, having problems in their life, he tries to, do cleanses and things like that. But I remember when he was talking to us, I asked him before the episode started, I asked him, how his day was going, what he was doing. And he told me he was cleaning out this lady that had some brujeria done to her, which is witchcraft. And I literally told him, I'm like, oh, is the lady there with you? And he's like, oh, no. So here in Mexico, it's very accustomed that you go to the graveyard, and sometimes you find these little hex bags where they have the picture of a person and they have all this shit in the bag because someone's trying to do witchcraft on them. So what I do is I bring the hex back home, I open it, and I do a cleanse to help him out. And it's people I don't even know. But he was doing that cleaning. He opened up that hex bag as he was talking to me on the phone. We do the whole episode. Episode ends. We give him the thanks for coming on the show with us and everything.
Yeah.
And that was a Wednesday. That same Wednesday night, I go to my house. And the next day I come to my mom's house, and she tells me that at night she was hearing stuff in that room. And I tell her, I remember it. I actually laughed, but I was like, Mom, come on, I was just doing a show, nothing. It's not like we're doing witchcraft in there. And she's like, no. I woke up around, 3 a.m. or 4. I don't remember the hour, to be honest. But I know it was like in the a.m. hours. And she said she was hearing this noise from that room, as if someone opened the closet and was just shoving everything outside of the closet, like throwing out everything.
What?
Yeah. She then walks to the room, opens the door, and as she's, about to open the door, she's hearing all these noises, man. She opens the door, turns on the light, the closet's closed, and there's nothing happening in that room. So she goes to sleep, and that day she's telling me, that happened that previous night, the day I recorded the episode. So I didn't make much of it. I was like, well, I don't know. I think it was like a day or 2 days later, I'm at my parents again, and this time I'm with my dad, and we're having some beers. It was a Friday night or Saturday. And we're having some beers in the living room. And he has a TV in the living room, and we're just, listening to music on YouTube and talking, having some good conversation. And around 2 a.m., my parents' room is at the end of the hallway, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying, but I hear something. Like I hear like a chain, literally like a chain. And my dad just looks to the side and he tells me like with his hand, like, stop. And I stopped right talking. And we hear like a chain and he tells me, you hear that? And I'm like, yeah. And it literally sounds like something's walking from their room toward us in the living room. And you can hear kind of steps and a chain. And I'm not lying to you. I fucking panic. And as the noise is getting closer and closer, my dad and I, we just stand up and we're fucking looking at the fucking hallway. thinking something's about to just pop out.
Yeah.
The chain, it literally sounds, I know it sounds very fucking unreal, but it sounds like something's pulling a fucking chain toward us. As it's passing, the noise is passing like where the restroom's at. The light from the living room is actually kind of hitting right there. So we're like, whatever's coming, we're gonna see it right now. As soon as the noises are like right to get right in front of us, there's nothing. And I fucking just turn on the switch of the hallway, the light switch. There's nothing. And my dad tells me, you heard that? And I was like, yes, I fucking heard someone pulling a fucking chain. And both of us are fucking panicking, bro, because we heard that fucking noise. All of a sudden, my mom opens the door to her room and she comes out. And she looks at us standing on the fucking hallway, just staring like idiots there. And she asks us, what's wrong? And we're like, we just heard a fucking noise. And the first thing my mom tells me is like, you see, you're fucking doing this podcast here in the house, like you're fucking bringing shit in. And I'm like, what did I do? I just did an episode. She's like, yeah, but maybe something came. Long story short, the next day, around 2 p.m., I remember I wanted to wait for like a time where the sun was out and, you know, it wasn't that scary. I call Lobo Blanco and I tell him like, hey, I actually send him a message and I'm like, hey man, is it possible for me to have a conversation with you over the phone right now? He's like, yeah, give me a call. So I call him up and I'm like, look, we did this episode on Wednesday. Wednesday night, this happened to my mom. Yesterday, this happened to me and my dad. Like literally we heard this shit, a chain, and I'm telling him everything, right? And he's like, you know what? Remember that day when we had the episode, you asked me what I was doing, and I told you I was doing a cleanse on a what's it called?
A hex bag.
On a hex bag. I was doing a cleanse. Sometimes when you know you're working with witchcraft and things like that, or sometimes if there's an entity or whatever, that energy can actually travel to a phone. And it's gonna sound kind of funny, bro, but the first thing that came to my mind, have you ever seen Casper?
Yeah.
The movie Casper. Have you seen that part where he's at his home at the haunted mansion, and in the TV, the commercial from the girl's dad comes out where he talks to spirits and helps him with the crossover and everything?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, he gets the idea of, oh my God, I want to get him to come to our house and to help us. But he kind of liked the girl, right? So he gets on the phone line and travels
all the way to the hotel room.
All the way to the ladies' hotel room who's in charge of the mansion, who has the deed to the mansion, and they know it's haunted, and they're looking.
Felicity, right? Or something
I don't remember her name, but he travels to the phone line, bro. So when Lobo Blanco tells me this, that, you know, a spirit or an energy like this can travel to the phone, I was like, fuck. Like, I saw that in Casper. I know it's, you know, kind of a kid's movie, but, you know, it makes sense because if it's an energy, it can get on the phone line with energy and travel.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we know they can travel now. You're in Mexico. I'm in, you know, here in Texas. What can we do about this? And he's like, it's easy. Go to the room where you did the podcast. Where's that room located? It's in the middle of the house. It has two doors. One that leads to the backyard and one that leads to the house, right? To the living room or whatever. He's like, you're going to open the door to the backyard. Because if you didn't have a door to the backyard and you had a window, you have to open the window to the outside. And it's funny because, you see, you just told me a story where the priest tells him, you have to open the door.
Yeah.
And the story of Emily, they had to open the fucking door too, right?
They leave everything open.
Exactly. Yeah. So he tells me, he's like, open the door to the backyard, go stand by the door, make sure the door doesn't close. And that right there gave me the chills because I was thinking, if this fucking door closes down on me, well, I'm telling my mom to sell the fucking house. Like, I'm not going to do this podcast anymore.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Yeah, we're selling this house, Mom. Like, I'm sorry for you, but you guys got to sell this house. And I got to look for a new location for the podcast. But I stand by the door, and he says, put the phone on speaker. I'm going to start saying some words. Just don't interrupt me. You know, don't. If you hear anything, he did say this. He's like, if you hear anything, don't give it your attention. Don't let it get your attention. So I'm like, okay. I set the phone on speaker and I literally tell him, you're on speaker. And I literally wait. I walked out of the room and I was standing kind of outside the fucking room. I was like in the backyard with the door open.
Yeah.
And I just hear him go off. He just starts talking, basically commanding whatever was in the house. You're not invited. No one is allowing you to stay in here. We need you to get out. And I think he repeated that phrase 3 to 4 times. Like, whatever's in this house, I need you to get out of the house. You're not invited. And he kept saying it and saying it. He repeating the same stuff. And I was like, I hope this works. I mean, it sounds very simple, but his tone was very commanding.
Yeah.
It's not like it was asking, can you leave the house? No, it was telling him, like, you gotta leave. Does it a couple times. He calls my name, come back into the room. I go into the room and he's like, how does it feel? And I literally felt like spacious. I think that's the word I can say, describe the moment. It felt like there was a lot of space in the room. And I told them, it literally feels like there's a lot of space in this room. And before this, it kind of felt like a lot of people were standing. You know when you're in a small place, like when you're in an elevator, and there's like people surrounding you in an elevator, and you can feel like everyone.
A bit claustrophobic.
That's how the room was feeling, bro. Like, literally, that's how I was feeling that room. After he did that, it felt spacious. Like, it was just me. And I told him that, and he tells me, it's whatever was in there, it's gone. Sure enough, next day, whatever, my mom never complained about anything. No one in the house said they were hearing anything anymore. But it was a story that got stuck to us for a while. Like, till the day, I mean, there's times where we have conversations, my dad with my uncles or whoever.
Yeah.
And the story of the man with chains comes out. And we say a man because, I mean, someone with chains, we would think it was a man. I don't know why. But just right there, it proves how sometimes you can be doing something that has to do with witchcraft and stuff. And even through the phone, something can go attached to you or can go to you. In your story, this young girl might have been in that old house, just playing with her dolls or doing whatever. You have the grandma in the next room, doing witchcraft or working on something. It might have been something like maybe she was doing a cleanse. I don't know. And whatever was there, a demon,
attached itself to the little girl.
It attached to the little girl. But it can happen. I mean, it happened to me. And I remember it's on season 1, if I'm not mistaken, that I had that episode with Lobo Blanco. And I was just starting the podcast. It was in 2020 during COVID. And I remember it was some fucking dark times, man, because, we couldn't go out here in the city. There was we had a curfew. And that's when I started saying, you know what, I want to do a podcast about, scary stories, paranormal stories. That was my 5th episode, if I'm not mistaken. And then that shit started to happen. I really started to have doubts. I was like, shit, should I continue with this or not? But then having more talks with him, that's when I kind of got more like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just, talk about this stuff, because a lot of these things, sometimes I feel that everybody goes through it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people out there go through, experiences with the paranormal, with something unexplained, with something beyond the darkness, like we say.
Oh, believe me, man. It's one of the topics that most people like to talk about, but nobody actually talks about with everybody, because feeling like, people might reject whatever they're saying or things like that.
You get sometimes, like, I've had friends that I think they will never start that conversation with me or with someone. Well, with me they do, because they know what I do. They know I have this podcast, and since I was a young kid, I've always loved talking about ghost stories. I mean, I just told you that radio show, that La Mano Peluda, that's something I grew up on when I was in Mexico.
Yeah.
We didn't have a TV in our room when I was little in Mexico. We had a little radio, and every night we would listen to this show, and that's how we would go to sleep, listening to fucking scary stories. But, I was surrounded with a big belief coming from Mexico where, you believe in ghosts, you believe, in demons. I mean, if you believe in God, you believe in the devil.
Yeah.
But it was always something very intriguing to me, hearing stories from people, because I was amazed on how many stories I've heard so far. And a lot of these stories I can relate to, because it's things that I've been through, or I know another person has been through the same stuff. For instance, I can tell you, a friend of mine once told me a story about a rocking chair in his house. And every night at a certain hour, that rocking chair started to do, move.
Yeah.
Then I get this person from another place in Mexico send us a story once where I was describing a rocking chair. At a certain hour, this rocking chair was moving. So in my head, it's like, holy shit, like I've known now 2 people that have the same incident happen to them.
That's because these things are very common.
Very, very common.
Like, have you heard about the person that follows your dreams?
The person that follows your dreams? No.
Yes. It's about there's multiple people that have said that they've seen this person's face in their dreams.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah. I think we actually posted on Facebook, on our Facebook. I think we posted the actual face of the man. It's the same face a lot of people see, and they say it has something to do with psychological, or I don't know what they said, but a lot of people have seen this face.
Yeah, and it's strange. How is it the same face that everybody sees, man? And it's not like it's a group of people in a city like I went to Elm Street with Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Now this is everybody dreaming. The majority of them start seeing people, and one of these people that they see all the time is that same face. So it's strange to me, man, like how these things can actually affect us psychologically and things like that. All this paranormal stuff. Because that man, you don't know what he can actually be. What if it's just a face that we can all, create in our minds while we're dreaming? But how are we all going to create the same face?
Exactly. Come out with the same face. It's just a mystery. And it's it's something that comes with every story we hear, every story we talk about. It's a mystery, and I get it. Sometimes we might say, "Is this story true?" Like when we hear it from someone, but that's the mystery, man. That's the mystery. That it's like remember that old magazine they would have in the aisles at at your local grocery stores, the ones that would talk about like aliens and shit.
Yeah, I remember those.
So you would see these magazines and you would think, it's some BS, it's not real. They talk about a lady with 3 heads and shit like that. If you see Men in Black, those are actually the magazines telling you the truth.
Right,
remember that?
And they even tell you. They even tell you. You
like,
want the truth? Get it.
Oh, yeah, if you're looking at the New York Times, they're not telling you the truth. These are the magazines that are actually telling you the truth. But we're so brainwashed thinking that this is all fake, and in reality, this is the real stuff. This is what it's really happening. And the magazine is literally like on the front page, like UFO spotted like in New Jersey or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I remember I would see those magazines when I was little, and it was always very intriguing when we were doing the line to pay the groceries, because you would get those magazines and they would just have some crazy shit in there. A lady spotted the Mothman outside her house, playing with the dog or some shit like
Imagine
that.
Loch Ness Monster in lake.
Yeah.
Local lake in the radar.
Exactly. Like it was some weird stories, but sometimes I think it might just be so crazy that it might just be fucking truth.
It might, man. Some things might sound too crazy to be real.
Maybe the scariest part of these stories isn't what people saw. It's what happened after. Because haunted places are one thing. You can leave those behind. But what if something lives with you? A shadow in the hallway, footsteps upstairs, a voice calling your name when nobody's there. At first you tell yourself it's stress, lack of sleep, your imagination, until it happens again and again and again. Maybe some places aren't haunted because something lives there. Maybe they're haunted because something is waiting for someone to take it home. So tonight, before you go to sleep, look around your room one more time and ask yourself, did you come home alone? This is Beyond the Darkness podcast, and some things never really leave. Remember to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok at Beyond the Darkness podcast. And if you have a story, send it to us. We might just talk about it in the next episode. Till next time, this is your podcast, Beyond the Darkness podcast. El más allá de la oscuridad.